Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Voidor Studios, where we carry on with our Fyreslayer series. And yeah, I said we'd start talking about characters, but there is two units left we need to talk about before then. They are technically characters, so I didn't lie, per se, but they don't come under the whole HQ choice. So, first up, one of these two, you can guess who they are, the title will, Anyway, you should be able to figure it out. First one we'll talk about is the Grimwrath Berserker. Now, in an army where there is a lot of berserkers, the Volkite Berserkers, the Hearthguard Berserkers, the Grimwrath Berserkers actually really deserve this name. A Grimwrath Berserker is an individual who has had so many Urgold runes implanted into him that he's become almost a living avatar of Grimnir's wrath. He is just a beast, an absolute beast in combat. Wounds that would normally fell Troggoths or trolls for us Warhammer Fantasy people, this guy can just shrug off and keep on hitting you. They are surly, reclusive, antisocial, and borderline psychotic for dwarves, which is saying something. And these are not people you tend to wish to spend much time around. But what makes a Grimwrath Berserker so, berserk? A Grimwrath Berserker is a dwarven Volkite Berserker who can take up the Grimwrath mantle. All they have to do is take the test of wrath. The battlesmiths, the rune masters, aren't keen on this. Find the process is very dangerous, and for the dwarf and for them. Because the test of wrath effectively is constantly hammering in more and more Urgold runes into the dwarf's body until one of two things happen. Either the dwarf will emerge the other side, a Grimwrath Berserker, the spirit of Grimnir awakened inside him, and he now becomes a walking avatar of destruction, or he bursts into flames, and a lot of Urgold runes are suddenly wasted. So, it's a very risky procedure. This process is so dangerous that the application of so much power into the dwarf's body can, even if they do get around the other side of it, they can often come out completely insane, or barely restrained anger. Really, the only place left for the Grimwrath Berserker now is in combat, because that is where they truly shine, and that is where they'll make their dollar back quite handsomely. Because a Grimwrath Berserker is just a walking whirlwind of destruction. And, this is why I've got one now for my Fyreslayer army. I need to build and paint him, but still, I'm very much looking forward to using him because his stat line is just borderline bonkers. He starts off with a fairly standard dwarf movement of 4, a 4+ armor save, but this is where it starts getting fun. 6 wounds and 9 bravery. This guy ain't running from nothing. He is armed with the Firestorm Great Axe, and of course he has the standard Fire Steel throwing axes, because why not? And it just keeps getting funnier. The profile for the Firestorm Axe is 4 attacks with a 1-inch range, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s with -2 rend and 2 damage. That's pretty damn tasty. But it is of course in the detail that makes the Grimwrath Berserker on the tabletop such a dangerous thing to try and fight against. Let's start off with Unstoppable Berserker. You roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. Add 1 to the roll if there are enemy models within 3 inches. On a 6, the mortal wound is negated. So I want you to understand, this is for every enemy unit that's within 3 inches. If there are multiple enemy units, then this could potentially be a 4-up just ignore wounds. It could be higher if you can get enough units nearby. But anyway, that's potentially hilarious, but it keeps getting better. Battle Fury. At the end of the combat phase, if this model is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, you roll a dice, and on a 2+, you make a pile-in move directly towards that unit, and you get to attack again. Yep, so not only are you potentially saying screw you to mortal wounds, you're also attacking twice. And finally, dead but not defeated. This is to represent the absurd determination, stubbornness, and toughness that these Grimwrath Berserkers have. If this model is slain, before it is removed from play, it can make a pile-in move and attack with all its melee attacks. So yeah, the Grimwrath Berserker will cause a mess wherever it goes. Pretty damn good at killing heroes, pretty damn good at killing monsters, pretty damn good at just flat out killing. Like, pop one of these behind the enemy lines with, say, a Rune Smiter, and yeah, that's potentially very funny. I'm not entirely sure which one I'm looking forward to doing more, 30 Volkite Berserkers or one of these guys. Either or could be quite hilarious. So, this is more or less all we know right now about Grimwrath Berserkers. Although the last thing I'll add is this: they are still tolerated inside Fyreslayer lodges. They don't, run off and do their own thing. They don't join mercenary bands, typically speaking. They are still honour bound to protect their various lodge, as well as the Runefather and his sons and, everyone else inside it. However, the next dwarf we're going to talk about has no such commitments on his hands. He is the Doomseeker. A Doomseeker is a dwarf that has taken a vow, known as the Doom Oath, or, if I dare to try and pronounce this, the Barazakdum. That would be my best translation. Now, this vow is taken upon the belief that the dwarf has done some kind of great dishonour. This can be anything, because dwarves are very proud, very honourable, and, well, very rigid in their standards. It could be anything from unrequited love to losing a hold from an enemy force. It really can be almost anything that could make a dwarf take up a Doomseeker vow. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Fyreslayer. There are variations of this, known typically as the Unhinged, who make similar vows. But essentially it boils down to a Doomseeker trying to find the biggest, nastiest thing he can find and either kill it or get killed by it. But however the oath is taken, the Doomseeker now must leave his hold immediately afterwards, taking only his belongings, as well as forging himself his brand new axe, to go out and kill whatever comes in front of him. There is no redemption, there is no forgiveness. The dwarf can only atone through death, and because the dwarf is too stubborn, proud, and, well, honourable, suicide isn't an option. It must be assisted suicide, I guess is the way you could think about it. On the whole, most Doomseekers tend to die quite quickly because, well, the Age of Sigmar universe is pretty damn dangerous and, well, it doesn't take that much to kill the average dwarf. However, some Doomseekers are lucky or unlucky, depending on how you think about it, and they basically continue to sharpen their skills, killing bigger and bigger things and, well, gaining more and more renown in a weird kind of way. And each creature they kill imbues them with an additional portion of Grimnir's wrath, so much so that their axes almost set fire to the air around them whenever they're swung hard enough. They are treated very much the same as a Grimwrath Berserker, and their temperaments on the whole tend to be similar. The main difference is that whilst a Grimwrath Berserker, well, is berserk and is trying to kill everything around him, the Doomseeker is actively trying to get killed, whereas a Grimwrath is trying to kill as many as possible. However, the dwarf stubbornness and pride thing means that they can't just let themselves get killed, so they've got to go find something big and burly enough to, fight and kill them honourably. These guys very much take their ideology and history and, well, ethics from the old-fashioned Warhammer Fantasy Slayer, because that's effectively what these guys are. The only real difference here is that the Doomseekers in Age of Sigmar have these fancy fiery axes and various other implements, including the runic war iron, a glowing rod which is a fantastic club, but also kind of glows red and, burns the flesh when it's struck onto you. These Doomseekers are naturally drawn towards Urgold. They can almost sense it in an instinctive way, and they will join Fyreslayer lodges who go out to battle in hopes that they can take some for themselves. Most are willing to trade their skills in battle for additional Urgold runes, or, well, things like money and food and all that kind of jazz. because there's no point starving yourself half to death, because then how are you going to fight something worthy enough to kill you? Dwarves. They're awesome. Basically, a Doomseeker's only goal in life is to get killed, but as I keep saying, it's to get killed in as honourable and as gloryful a way as possible. Now, handily here, the Doomseeker's actually on the same page as the Grimwrath, and their profiles aren't that dissimilar. Movement 4 and an armor save of 4+, but with 5 wounds and 8 bravery, so not quite as brave or as doughty as our Grimwrath, but then again, he doesn't have as many Urgold runes hammered all over his body. But here's where it gets interesting. They're of course armed with the typical fire steel throwing axe, but they also have the runic war iron and the Doomseeker axe, the axe that every Fyreslayer who takes up this oath forges for themselves before going out of their hold. The runic war iron has 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s with 1 damage, not half bad, but the Doomseeker axe is nicer, 3 attacks that hit and wound on 3s with -1 rend and 1 damage. Very respectable, very, very, decent. And they have 2 special rules, Oathbound and Runic Power. Oathbound represents the fact that these Doomseekers are seeking out a particular quarry that they wish to kill in order to, get killed by. At the start of the battle round, you pick 1 enemy unit the model has sworn to destroy. At the end of the combat phase, if this model is within 3 inches of that unit, the model can make a pile-in move, and then attack with all the weapons it's armed with. So what this can effectively mean is you could have your Doomseeker beating up something nearby, beating up a unit nearby, and you've already picked the unit next to this one that you've, sworn to kill. You butcher the unit you were fighting with in your normal combat phase, and then at the end of it, if you're within 3 inches, you pile into the one that you've sworn to kill, meaning that you just get to bounce around more units and just kill things more effectively. Imagine a Grimwrath and a Doomseeker wandering around, or multiples of both. That's potentially hilarious and terrifying. And Runic Power makes things even more fun. You add 1 to the damage characteristics of the melee weapons of this model if it has 1 wound allocated to it. You add 2 to the damage for all melee weapons if it suffered 2 or more wounds. So yeah, suddenly those 1 damage weapons get really good. So you're doing 3 damage a pop if you take 2 wounds. Whilst yes, that means you run the risk of, dying and everything, it still means that you're pumping out a fantastic number of attacks, all at 3 damage apiece. So how would I like to use a Doomseeker? Well, basically, it's a slightly cheaper version of a Grimwrath Berserker. That wonderful ability to bounce around units is fan-frickin-tastic. If you use it on, say, an enemy character that you wish to murderize, then, even better. Butcher a unit nearby it and then bounce into the character. Fantastic. But frankly, I would use both. I personally see no reason why not having a Doomseeker or a Grimwrath Berserker would be a sensible idea. These 2 units are fantastic. Great at killing monsters, great at killing characters, and, they're great models too. I'm looking forward to painting mine, honestly. And that's the conclusion to our new Fyreslayer video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, another quick one, but Fyreslayers don't tend to have that many units, and the backgrounds on them are, relatively speaking, straightforward. They're a very straightforward bunch, are Fyreslayers. I will release a new episode soon. Thank you all very much for your views, your support. I can't believe we've managed to hit 75 subscribers. I am really, really, really amazed and grateful, and it's just awesome. I can't say thank you enough to everyone who supports me. Have a look at the Patreon page, because this would really help me out. And please keep watching, subscribing, and commenting down below. I hope you all have a fantastic day wherever you are. Until then, take care everyone.